Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new Marvel Legends Retro Spider-Man Wave Mysterio, which is kind of a unique release. There's some things on it that are very interesting to me, and then some things that it's just like, we're never going to get it right. It's just not going to happen. They're never going to do it. We're never going to have a figure that does this properly. But other things on this guy, like I said, are very nice. So there's actually a little bit to talk about, even though this is not necessarily the most exciting release. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 6.5 inches, which makes him pretty close to, let's say, 16.5 centimeters. And I'm willing to bet that those of you with a keen eye noticed the two things I was talking about in the very beginning, the good thing and the bad thing. The good thing is this guy's entire body, well, at least all the green parts, maybe the gold here, has a wash on it. It makes this look so much better, and it's not like it's a very precise wash or very specifically designed to look good. It's just like wash, put it on the figure, wherever it goes, it goes. It still looks better than not having anything. It looks very nice. It makes those quilt work lines, if you want to call it that, the checkerboard pattern, makes it pop out very nicely. Even around his boobages, it's nice. I mean, it gives the figure a little bit of extra something. And again, this is not like a very expensive, precise paint job. It's just the easiest possible thing you could do. And it does help a lot. Is it the most uniform thing? No. You'll see right here his hips are a little bit darker than down here. That could be the underlying plastic, though I do think it is just the way the wash was applied. Most likely the parts were separate, not already assembled when the wash was applied, so some of them got it differently, that's all. But it still does look very nice, so kudos to them for that. Now, the other thing I'm guessing you guys probably noticed is when he spun sideways, yes, the cape. That's the thing. The cape and, in this case, his helmet, hat, head thing, they don't fit in properly because it pegs in the back here again, and it just floats on the front, and it doesn't sit properly. It looks absolutely ridiculous from the side. From the front, you might not notice it. I mean, directly from the front, you probably won't for sure, but probably for sure, it does float above his torso, which is just, I'm so sick of it. They did give him a regular head underneath here, which is interesting because it also has a lollipop, but it is generally in the right positioning, and we'll talk about articulation later. So translucent green head, and then this just sits on top, but because of that peg, it doesn't sit properly. It needs to be all the way down like that. Actually, I can't even do it. Whatever they did, I can't tell if it's on hitting his head or what, but it needs to be held in place, and even then it's questionable. Just like 5 more minutes of thinking about this before it was assembled or before it was produced would have made this figure so much better. In fact, not pegging that in does help a little bit because it forces it down in the front. Just letting the peg sit there does help, so be aware of that. Honestly, these should be glued. Actually, these should have pegs behind them and peg right in, but it definitely looks better for those of you who are concerned about the floating head look. If you don't peg this back in, if you don't speak English, you can do reviews. No, if you don't peg this in all the way in the back, it does sit better in the front. So that's what I'm trying to say. And there we go. So anyway, back to the other aesthetics. His marbly, pearly, not really marbly, pearly dome looks very nice. The gold is metallic gold, and that looks pretty good. Same thing for the boots. His anatomy is not terrible. I mean, he's still kind of shrimpy looking. Look how thin his legs are. There's no shape to his thighs at all. In fact, where his boots pop out over here, it's thicker than his legs. So that could definitely look better, but all in all, it has wider shoulders than the hips, and it's generally pretty good looking. So one last thing I want to point out is the cape does have texturing on the inside. So there's a little bit of a pattern in there, and that looks pretty cool. No paint, but still looks good. So I'm going to give this guy an overall 8 out of 10 once you fix this. It does look pretty nice on the shelf. It's going to stand out from most Marvel Legends. All right, on to the accessories. We have 2, and it's the same accessories we saw before with Mysterio. This is translucent green with just like 3 specks of glitter in it. It's fine. They look nice enough. I like the translucent green. I don't think the tiny bit of glitter in there helps at all. It just makes it look cheap. So 5 out of 10 for accessories. No fist hands, things like that. You know, easy additions would have brought that number up. Okay, as for the articulation, obviously the cape doesn't allow anything for the head, so we're just going to pop that off. And I'll show you how this head poses. If you want to do it, you'll be able to do it with knowledge. Knowledge is power. Okay, you can rotate the head around, obviously, on the ball peg. It's on a ball peg with tons of range because we have lollipop syndrome out the wazoo. It's just not even connected to the neck. Look how stumpy his neck is. The trick to sculpting a neck that doesn't have a head connected to it is you have to go all the way up, because in humans, the neck goes all the way up. You just don't notice it because of the hair and the skull that's sitting on top of it. But your spinal cord goes all the way up. Your neck muscles go all the way up. On a figure, you have to make the neck go higher. Doing this looks ridiculous. Having the head not sit on the neck is just silly. But we do have the hinge, so there's technically tons of range. And it's at the right height, it's just the neck isn't sculpted properly. So take that for what it's worth. Shoulders have full rotation there. Better than horizontal that way, that's good. Bicep swivel is good. Double jointed elbows, definitely going to run into some limitation with these guys. Nothing you can really do about that. Wrists have a swivel and a hinge. Different sculpted hands, but same articulation. Ab crunch. It does go back, and they did sculpt it and continue the wash, so that's good. Going forward's not bad either. Waist twist is fine. Going out to the side, that's plenty. That's a little bit better than 45, and that's plenty for Mysterio, I think. Going forward, they do have good range going all the way up, but you do have to kick them out to the side just a little bit. Instead of having them forward, they go out just due to the sculpt here. Going back, you don't get any. Thigh swivel is a thigh swivel. Double jointed knees are double jointed knees. Shin is a shin. And the foot goes all the way back, which is wonderful. And not that far forward. I don't know why they won't do it. And don't say humans don't have that much range there. This is a plastic toy. I need to be able to pose it. He also doesn't have flexible joints and things like that, like a real human does, or a toe joint, which you don't want on a figure most of the time, but we won't talk about that. Anyway, we have an ankle rocker that is decent. So it's not bad. It's not a bad batch of articulation, other than the lollipop syndrome. It's a good version of your standard Marvel Legends articulation, so I'll give him... I'll be generous. I'm feeling a little happy today. I'll give him an 8 for his articulation, because it's okay. Okay, so it's time for the final verdict. I personally really enjoy this figure just because of the wash. It makes him stand out so much better than 95% of the Marvel Legends out there because they're just shiny chunks of plastic. And this actually looks somewhat like a collectible, so I do definitely appreciate that. I think most of you will too. I'm going to give it a final verdict of, for Marvel Legends standards, 8 out of 10. It definitely looks better than most Marvel Legends, even though it's a fairly basic figure. So there you go. That's my verdict. Let me know what you guys think. If you liked the video though, give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you probably should, because I have new videos out just about every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.